perhaps, Jay, if you could just start talking about the kind of work that you do and what brings you to JBay.
Okay, so I'm a software developer, so is my wife, and we've both always worked from home. Home being Coworking at the moment. Well, summer home now. We've tried to start this based on the lockdown events of the last 2 years. Last year we decided this would be the year, like the best time to come to JBay for an extended period of time, because we always would, we'd come for like 10 days at a time, and then you like panic surfing, you come for, there's such a small window in which you like need to get your waves. Rather come for a couple of months at a time and then just actually live here and, take it easy, I guess, surf at your own leisure, which ended up, working out last year. It was pretty busy, even though we figured like it would be less surfers than normal based on the lockdown stuff, but, there's more locals like us doing exactly the same thing. So, we're lucky enough that we do have that kind of ability to move around, work from anywhere, and it's just been an amazing place to come and hang out, and we're still panic surfed actually, like every day. It's just like it doesn't go away. The waves are so good and it's so constant over winter that, like even though it's not like panic surfing like as what normally happened, but it was constant, like we were in every morning. You get into such a good routine, surf, go to work, steal an hour at lunchtime, go surf again, come back, and I reckon we're going to carry on doing that for, well, foreseeable future. I mean, we're actually going back to Coworking on Saturday, and then we're planning the next year. We'll come back around April, I guess, do it again.
Good.
So, I mean, getting into like the first question that Mike asked, which was how to get back into the water so soon after something that is, I guess, I mean, it's a traumatic experience, but it's also, it's like a pretty random experience too. So if the way that I looked at it is that in the month that I took off to recover, because obviously I was pretty bitten and injured, luckily I didn't lose anything, like it would have been a totally different scenario if I'd had like a really severe injury, but essentially I was just cut up and had to be stitched back together. So the healing was actually pretty quick from an actual like injury point. And then while that was happening, I was watching everyone else carry on surfing like nothing had happened, I was like looking out there, and it's, like on the cloudy days like this, it's like, oh, it looks really sharky out there now, and like all this kind of stuff, because it happened to me really early in the morning as well, like, when it's darker, it feels more sharky in my mind, and but I just had to like apply logic to it, it's part of my job too, being a programmer, is to think logically, and everyone else is able to surf and everyone else is able to have a good time. There's no reason, even though there's these like, I mean, it's a scary thing to go through, and everyone always says, oh, they're there, but they never do anything until one does. So I was just in the wrong place at the wrong time, and I got to actually experience that, but it was just, I just had to convince myself. And one afternoon, I just looked out, and it was really, like, it was small, Supers was nice, there was like 6 guys out, and I just thought, okay, I got bitten at point. So I didn't go in at exactly the same place that this happened, but it was a few hundred meters up the drag, and I just said to Mao, I was like, I'm going this afternoon, got my board. Her and the dog came down and watched me paddle, the lonely paddle from the bottom keyhole at Supers. I actually didn't think it was going to be so bad until I got in the water. Got in, and then I was like, why am I doing this? Like, it actually is very uncomfortable, and I mean, everyone was surfing up the top, and I was like, I'm on my own again, paddling. I mean, and yeah, I don't know, that was scary. There was a whale jumping in the background, scared the hell out of me when I saw that. Like, just anything that moved was like terrifying. But I sat in there for 2 hours. I got like 2 average waves, 2 or 3, I don't know. And I just kind of sat there and watched other people surfing. And then I got out, didn't surf again for a few days, and then slowly but surely got back into it. And it's just a repetition thing. The more you get away with it, the more confident you feel. And like, I remember the first few times I surfed in JBay, I was always like, oh, the shark's here, and I was nervous, and you see other people paddling out early in the morning, I was like, oh, man, like I want to get uncrowded waves too. I'm going to go early in the morning. And that's just like why I started going like really early in the morning. And eventually it's the same thing. It's just like repetition. You get away with it enough and eventually it's a non-event. And I'd written it off until it happened, and now I'm going to do that process again. Just keep going until it becomes normal. And it has pretty much. I mean, in the beginning, I wasn't that excited to go surfing. I was just like, well, it's good, I have to go. And now, like the last few days, it's been good, and I've been like, I'm back in. Lunchtime, I'm going again. I'm just like, go in the morning, go at lunchtime. So, yeah, I don't know. I just force myself in the beginning, and then it just gets easier. And then that's my personal experience of the whole thing. And what was the
crisis management?
Crisis management.
One of the things I've heard in a previous interview that you've done is how calm everyone remained.
Yeah, that was.
I guess sort of how did it play out compared to how you expected a crisis would play out? Did you learn anything from being in such an intense situation?
I was just surprised that everyone was actually really chilled about the whole thing while it was happening. So, like in my mind, I'd always planned out how a shark attack was going to happen. You know, like you'd see this fin, there'd be a bit of like a standoff, you know, like what's it going to do? Kind of eyeballing each other and then wait for something. It didn't go like that. Like there was zero idea anything was going to happen. The next thing I was smashed in the water, rolling around. And then it became very apparent when I got back on my board that there was holes in it. I didn't even know I'd been bitten. Felt the holes and I was like, it had its teeth out, looked over, saw I was bleeding, and then then I realized that there was a bit of a problem, and the other two people in the water with me, Karen and Pete, were just looking at me a bit confused, and I said to them, look, there's been a shark's hit me, I have been bitten, let's just come together and get out. And it was really bizarre because I always expected there to be more panic in that situation, like every man for themselves kind of thing, and it didn't work out. I mean, look, maybe I was lucky and I had very supportive people around me, but like I just remember reading about Sasha Specker's incident at Dunes, and Mike Schliebach saying to everyone else, paddle towards him, stick together, and we'll all go in as like one big unit, don't leave any stragglers around, you know? And that straight away came into my mind, because I used to obsess about sharks so much. Like I remember these things and I was like, okay, I've been bitten, we need to get out right now, everyone come together and we'll just paddle in like really close together, and that's just the way it worked. And no one did anything, like it was literally just, that was all we could control, was one thing, was stay close together and get out of the water. Like literally you realize you have zero control over the situation outside of paddling to shore, because that animal is going to do whatever it wants. And it was there the whole time we were paddling. It was right next to us, like literally behind Karen's feet, to the point where Pete and I were saying to her, like, Karen, it's right behind you. Like, which, I mean, it was so close, I felt like I could touch it. And I was like, Karen, it's right behind you. And she lifted her legs up because she was on a longboard, luckily, and got her legs out of the water. And it was right there. And right up until we got to the beach, you just have this feeling of waiting for something to happen, and nothing happened. So, you know, I don't know. The only thing that we could control was just to stay as calm as we could, stick together. Anything outside of that was going to be wasted energy, screaming, shouting, like splashing around. Like, all of that is not going to actually get you from point A to point B. So, it was surprising that it played out like that, and that everyone was super chilled. I think it's also so far beyond your, like, what we had all expected that morning paddling out. It was beautiful glassy waves and like light offshore, and then like literally within 2 minutes everything just went pear-shaped, and we were just like, okay, well, we've got to get out now. So like your expectations flipped like 100% from epic to terrible. And the only thing we could do was just paddle out, just get out, and it worked. I mean, and not to say that actually changed the outcome, like that shark could have done whatever it wanted to, and it just didn't. So, you know, our great strategy of remaining calm and paddling was just that. I don't actually know if it made any difference. I mean, maybe if we'd all scattered in our own directions, then, you know, there would have been another attempt at, well, it probably would have charred me, because I was already bleeding and I was on a shortboard, whereas everyone else was on longboards. So I was more in its prey size range, I guess. But it worked out all right.
would you have done anything differently if you could redo it now?
No, not at all. Like, I mean, the thing is, the whole thing was just accidental, right? So, like, there was no, the way it all played out, and I've thought about this a lot, it could have been like so much worse, that the fact that this happened, I had a huge bite on me, I didn't bleed to death, I didn't lose an arm or a leg. I'm really grateful that to me, I actually have said to Mao, it was like the perfect experience almost, because there's just so many more worse outcomes that could have happened, and it just, you know, it happened the way it did, and I got away with it, got a cool scar and a story, like, yeah, that's and a board I can hang up on my wall. Like, not many people have those.
Okay. My third question was, when you experience a kind of life and death event like this, I think you'd call it that. I know it's still fairly recent, but does anything change? Has anything changed? Do you see the world differently? Do you, have an extra chocolate after?
Nothing like that, but there's a lot of gratitude that I have for everyone that has, like, I mean, you get stuck into your daily routine and you do forget, like, how lucky we are to do what, I mean, personally, my life is really, I feel so lucky to have the life that I have, that I can come here and surf for 5 months at a time, go back to Cape Town, you know, go run around the mountains. Like, it's a very almost free existence, even though I have to work in between all the fun stuff. But I mean, I enjoy my job too. So as it is, like, yeah, I guess I reflected on that, and I did kind of realize that I'm super lucky to have that existence, even though at times it feels like, you know, work is weighing you down and you've got all these things. They're really not that big deals in the grand scheme of things. And I think, yeah, it was just like a wake-up call to be more thankful for everything that I've got. And it is a pretty cliched thing, right? Like, you do have, like, often after, like, you know, when, like, such an incident where you get lucky like that, you know, then you realize that was a close call, and, you know, I need to be more thankful. But that is literally the case. Like, the only thing that, like, one of the things that stuck with me is how bad it could have gone, and, you know, I could have been left permanently disabled, but I wasn't. And look at, I still get to do all of this. I still get to live a life that most people, I think, would envy, you know, and I'm really lucky for that. So yeah, it's just a wake-up call to be more thankful for everything that I've got. Yeah, as it is, the freedoms that I have to sneak a lunchtime surf and that kind of stuff, you know, I couldn't ask for more, really. So it's just about the people. Like, that was another thing that I realized as well. Like, you know, people that, I'm pretty bad at managing, like, a lot of, like, close relationships, like friends and that, you know, like, I've got a lot of friends in Durban that I haven't spoken to in ages. And to see that, like, so many people actually cared about it and were like, you know, the amount of phone calls was overwhelming actually at a certain point, and I was like, wow, it was a little bit much, but I was like, each of those people has taken time out to, like, see how I'm feeling, and then you realize, like, I don't know, I should actually invest more of my time in maintaining those relationships, because those people do actually care, you know. And yeah, I think, yeah, I'm just really glad to have everyone that I have, and the life that I have. That, yeah, gratitude is the biggest thing.
That's cool. You mentioned earlier that you were still thinking of coming back next year.
100%.
That was going to be my last question. Is you're coming and spending winter in JBay? Will you do it again?
100%. Yeah, I mean, winter here is amazing. It's like Cape Town winters are pretty miserable in comparison. I mean, look, there's surf there too, but it's not like here. The winter's mild. And the community here in JBay is actually amazing too. Like, we've met so many people, like, just from surfing every morning. You see the same friendly faces in the water. Yeah, we've made so many good mates here that there'd be zero reason to not come back and do it again. I'm really looking forward to it. it was such a shock. Like, literally, we were just paddled out, dry hair paddle, hadn't even sat up on my board yet. And the next thing, like paddling to go a little bit wider for a wave, and all I remember was just this crashing sound. And like you said, you know, it could have been a long time between when it happened and when. I actually don't know that answer, but I assume it was pretty quick. Like, it would have been a few seconds. It was a heavy side impact. I shot out of its mouth. I was in the water. Then I was like, what the hell happened? Found my board. It's like, okay, that was a shark. Got on my board. And then only when I felt my board, I was like, hey, well, I've been bitten. The board's been bitten. I might have been bitten. And then was like, okay, well, now we need to make a plan. So there was not, like, I was taken by surprise. I had no plan apart from get out of the water. And I was, they were like, we were sitting in an area like this, like the three of us were so close together. We weren't sitting, we were paddling. So 2 people on longboards, me on this board, and like I was between the 2 of them. So I'm pretty certain that I was chosen because I was on the smallest board, you know, like I was on a short board, the others were on longboards. So I'm within, it's like, you know, a big seal could be about that size. I don't think, I've never heard of longboarders being attacked. So I'm pretty certain I was like the only thing that was about the size of something that would be bitten by a white shark. And so like literally I was in the water, they were just staring at me with eyes like this. I was like, whoa, that was weird. And you know what, like a few days before, a kid had been bumped off his board at Point in the middle of the day with a whole bunch of people around. And I was just like, oh, it happened to me now. Like I got bumped off my board. And then it escalated quite quickly. Where it disappeared, I didn't see it. You know what, I was lucky as well. I did not see the shark biting me. So, I mean, I didn't even know I'd been bitten. I just thought it hit me underneath the board. But so I never actually saw its face. Like, that would have left me with, like, far more mental trauma than... Because right now it was just this accident, you know, like, it was before first light, it was pretty dark, smash bang, I was in the water, and then all we saw was the fin after that. Like, it was just swimming next to us. And it disappeared, and I was like, okay, it's gone, let's get out. And then Pete said, it's coming back. I looked over, I was like, oh, this is it, it's finished, it's over. And also, another interesting thing was we were really close to shore. And I thought we were really far out. I was like, we are miles away from shore, this is going to take forever to get in. And afterwards, I was told we were like 50 meters from the shore. So, you know, there is that like personal perception of how bad things are and how like far, you know, you are from shore. But it was actually already close. But yeah, it was like 2 minutes, get bitten, and within 2 minutes, the whole thing was 4 minutes, and I was back into shore. Like. I don't know. I mean, I'd like to think that nothing. I mean, apart from like, but I mean, you even see like there's these adaptive surfers, guys that are missing legs and arms, they go back out and surf. Like people have actually gone back after being attacked by a shark, losing a limb and then going back. I don't know if I would have that kind of motivation. I got away so easily. For me to get back in, it's kind of like far easier than like losing a limb or like having permanent disability, you know, like I'm basically back to normal. And just looking at it as an accident. So I don't know how much worse things could be before I wouldn't go back in. I don't know. Actually, I mean, look, if I had to have lost a leg or an arm, and I was very close to losing an arm because I was paddling. So my arm just happened to be up when it bit me here. If my arm was in the water at that point in time, a half a second earlier or later, my arm would have been in, and I'm pretty certain my arm would have been taken off. So, I mean, yeah, it was coin tosses everywhere, you know, like it's all so random and all like so outside of your personal control that, yeah, it's just a lucky event to escape from, I guess. Like a car accident, you know, like cars are dangerous things and we drive past them all the time. You know, you're not terrified of every car you see on the road, but every single one has the potential to kill you, I guess, you know. I think about like the last time someone had, before me, I mean, maybe they have and I just haven't heard of it, but like there was the highly publicized Mick Fanning incident where it didn't actually bite him, but it was like quite a tussle. And then there was such a long period of time before this happened. Like, it's really such a small chance. And there's hundreds of thousands of man hours of surfing going on out here at Super Tubes and Point and whatever, with zero incident until mine. So we can look forward to a couple more years, hopefully without anything, I guess. No, I mean, so after this happened, I got contacted by the shark spotters in Cape Town. They do data collection for any like shark incidents, and then hand it over to, I think it's the like global shark attack file or something like that. And they have a long list of questions that they asked. Time of day, clarity of water, were there bait fish, what color was the board, what color was your leash, what color was your wetsuit, like millions of questions. And I gave them the GPS data file. I guess maybe it's quite a unique thing. I don't know how many people have been bitten by a shark while recording their heart rate. And I don't know if they would actually, if they can use it in any way, but they have it. And yeah, I mean, I've just looked at it and marveled at the spike and the drop. Like literally you can see, if you can trace my position on the map, paddle out, get bitten, heart rate just starts climbing, and it's literally just an A-frame. Like from the moment I get bitten, it just keeps going up until I hit the sand, and as I hit the sand, it just plummets again. And my heart rate,
percentage-wise,
it was, I got a personal record. Yeah, I mean, I used to be quite a serious runner, so I used to train hard, and I knew my max heart rate was around 175 that I could sustain for short periods of time, and I hit 188. And that was with doing very little effort, you know, like we were just paddling slowly, like it wasn't like frantic paddling. And it's, I mean, that's quite interesting, right? So like, and that's all controlled not by actual exertion, that's just by adrenaline and like chemicals in your body just sent. And then the minute I hit the sand, you can obviously see like, okay, I'm completely safe now. I don't need to like pump your heart anymore. Poof, and it just dropped back down to 90, and it kind of, I mean, 90 is still fairly high. Like obviously it's still quite a traumatic experience bleeding out in the parking lot, but you know, I didn't know the severity of my injury. I just lay there and I was like trying not to make a scene because I was under the impression that it was just something that was going to be like dusted off because I hadn't actually seen what was going on here. I could see I had a huge hole in my knee. So I was just like, oh, I'm trying, like, everyone's staring at me and I just don't make eye contact and just hope that they don't talk about this kook that had a bump by a shark and made a big drama about it, you know. But I mean, it was evident. There was at one point when I was standing before Mawa said lie down, there was quite a lot of blood on the floor, and I was like, oh yeah, actually this is a little bit worse than I thought, but like it's not such a big deal until I saw the photos after the surgery, and then I was like, wow, that was quite surprising. You know, the most surprising thing was there was no pain, that I didn't even know it had happened. So like having such, I mean, it's definitely the most traumatic injury I've ever experienced, and I didn't even know it had happened. Like, I've hurt myself in many ways, snowboarding and wakeboarding and skateboarding, and this was the worst, and there was zero pain, which is quite, I think, reassuring at least, you know, like if it does happen to you. Well, okay, that's a large assumption to make, but I have spoken to other people that have been bitten by sharks. Like, we kind of know each other now. And they've also said the same thing, like there's no pain. But I think, I mean, that's probably the same in like any really traumatic injury, is that like there's no need for your brain to tell you it's really sore, because that's not going to help you survive it, right? Like you're aware that this is a really bad situation, and switch off the pain and rather like focus on other stuff that you can control. And that's my assumption of how it works. I haven't actually done any read up on it. It was just nice to know that it wasn't like the most excruciating thing I've ever experienced. 100%. I totally believe that saved my life. Like if I was just swimming, so what I think happened is we were in shallow water, so the shark hit me like very side on as opposed to coming from underneath, and you can see that by the depth of the impact on the rails. There's like 3 or 4 centimeter deep like impact on the side, and because I don't actually know what happened, I believe that it hit me really hard from the side, and it kind of makes sense if you look at the bite mark, is that it was just like rakes. it didn't actually get to bite down and do anything, because if it did, that would have been terrible. I mean, you can actually see like how that rip goes all the way up to the front of the board, and I imagine that's when he hit and then shook its head. Like they usually bite and shake to rip pieces off, but I'd already ejected out of its mouth because it hit me so hard that I flew out, which kind of saved me, and then it was thrashing around, which is I think how my knee got a big cut in it, because it was one hit. And then I had a huge cut in my knee as well. So I imagine it was probably thrashing around under the water with his mouth open, and my knee happened to just get a tooth and cut open. So yeah, I mean, I've thought about, like, I used to dive off my board and swim around. I'm currently still like trying to I actually haven't even surfed a board this short since I've been back in the water. I've got a 7.4 mid-length, which is the shortest board that I've gone back on, and I've spent a lot of time longboarding. But I'm going to get another. I enjoyed this board so much. I'm going to get another short board and go back. I mean, everyone else is doing it, right? I mean, there's little kids out there now, all the Groms here for the contest, and I saw a kid on a board about this size. That thing's like a little biscuit, you know? And like nothing's happening to them. So, but I do believe that if I didn't have the board, it would have got a hold of me. I mean, look, you can survive. And I spoke to the surgeon, and I was like, oh, I'm like so lucky it didn't like rip my stomach open. He's like, people have serious injuries. Like, I mean, you can be put back together, but obviously it would have been a lot worse, you know. Like, this certainly. And when I got back on, the safety that I felt being back on the board, I was like, oh, okay, at least I've got my board underneath me. And that same actual like false sense of security comes with longboarding now as well, because I spend a lot of time longboarding now. Having a big board under me where you're like kind of out of the water, and it feels safer. But there's absolutely no reason. I mean, there's videos of white sharks biting boats, and you know, they're not scared of a longboard. They're just far less likely, I think, in a hunting situation to try and sniff out a longboarder and bite them.
Thanks so much, Jay, and for your time and sharing your experiences here, and for opening up our speaker sessions. I think we're going to start doing this on a bi-weekly basis. So if you've got anything that you would like to share with the broader community, get hold of us, get hold of Steffi, and we'll schedule you in, and we'll keep the members informed about what's up and coming. But thanks so much, Jay.
Oh, it's a pleasure. Thanks for having me.
To start off with, thanks.